You are listening to the Manument Podcast. My name is Casey, and I'm here with my buddy Glenn Johnson, investment advisor and founder of Jabez Financial right here in the Uncasville area. In every episode, he is here to break down today's biggest retirement worries and headlines for us. Glenn, it's always great to be with you. How are we doing this weekend?
I'm doing great, and I'll tell you, I'm really looking forward to going into this next fall season. It's my favorite time of year, soccer season, and the colors are absolutely beautiful. I love living in New England.
Yeah, you and me both. This is my absolute favorite time of year. So are you up to anything fun? You guys got anything exciting going on?
We do. Well, obviously, we always have a collection of projects going on at home. But one thing we're really looking forward to is putting the final pieces together for our Christmas party on December 6th.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, last year we had a blast. We had rented out the barn in Groton, and we had a fabulous band playing, and it was catered and lots of food. Everyone had a great time. But this year we'll be at the Groton Elks Lodge on December 6th. And fortunately, we were able to get the same musicians to come back, and we'll have more food, more friends, more family. We're going to have a great time.
I love it. It sounds amazing. Everybody mark your calendar, December 6th, the Jabez Financial Christmas Party. Be there or be square. That sounds awesome, Glenn. I'm excited to dive into you for the show today. We've got a lot of great stuff on the docket to chat about. We're going to talk about those pesky fees eating away at our 401ks. We're going to talk why Roth conversions are not a DIY project. Plus, is it time to put your financial advisor in the hot seat? We're going to get to all of it, but before we get there, we want to make sure that you know how to reach us if you are ready to take a fresh look at your retirement strategy. 860-288-9977 is our phone number. And Glenn has an amazing offer exclusively for our radio listeners this week. Be one of our first 5 callers, and we will get you on Glenn's calendar for an introductory conversation. Glenn, can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like?
Absolutely. When someone either contacts us via the website or giving us a call or even sending the office a text message, what we want to do is open up and start a conversation, initiate some kind of a dialogue where we can get to know one another. And the way I run my business is I want to hear your story and find out if we're a good fit. It's not just a guarantee that say, okay, once we open up a conversation, we're already committing to doing business. What we're committing to is having a conversation, and then we'll take it from there.
It sounds amazing. You don't want to miss out on this chance to sit down with Glenn. He's so easy to talk to. So I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. We're opening those phone lines right now. 860-288-9977 is that number to call. Again, that's 860-288-9977. Or if online is better for you, you can head over to our website. You can find us at jabezfinancial.com. And that's Jabez, J-A-B, easy. All right, Glenn. Let's dive into it. I ran across a list this week on Reddit that talked about things that our younger selves survived that would emotionally damage the kids of today. So I'm talking about things like playing dodgeball in gym class, writing out the first drafts of our school reports by hand, and also having nothing on demand. And there's another one. We did not have autosave on our primitive computers back in the day. So if you forgot to hit save and your computer crashed, you could not get that work back. So I was reading this list. It got me thinking, this is kind of like the money that you lose to hidden fees in your 401ks and your other retirement accounts. So, Glenn, is there a way that you can help kind of auto-save what people have spent a lifetime building up for their retirement?
Absolutely. And you know, when you say auto-save, it kind of struck a nerve because I remember when I was in college for electronic engineering, I remember spending a couple hours in the library writing up some code for some class I was taking, and then the computer crashed.
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to have nightmares tonight about this.
And, you know, it was such a beautiful day out. It was soccer season just like this, but I was still spending that time in the library typing out this code. The computer crashed. I lost everything.
Everything. Oh, man, that's a nightmare.
And, you know, lesson learned. From that moment on, I clicked save every 30 seconds. And the funny thing is, even now, even though I've got autosave on my computer, I still have the habit of going up, clicking the save button, clicking the save button.
File save. It's an old habit.
I remember just thinking, oh gosh, did it get onto this floppy disk? I'm like, nope, it didn't. I checked it. I called one of my friends over and said, like, can you find it? Can you help me out with this? But it was gone.
Do you have a spare floppy disk?
Right. And so now when we look at the wealth that we've created over the years, and if we don't have some sort of autosave in place on our investment strategy, when it goes away, it doesn't necessarily come back. Not without having to wait a significant amount of time, oftentimes. I remember my mom taught me. My mom taught me how to use the internet, what to post and what not to post. And that was long before the internet existed, because she taught me principles. And these are the types of principles we want to have into our financial strategies. See, she used to tell me, she said, don't put anything in writing you don't want the whole world to know. That was some valuable advice. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that. Especially today.
Still very pertinent today in our digital society.
And now people are putting this stuff online. They're posting their everything online, and the whole world can know, and it doesn't go away. So when we learn the principles are timeless. The tools of the trade, they're always going to be changing. And I love being able to implement some new financial tools into my practice. But the principles on how we go about thinking about money and how we go about with our approach to it, the principles don't change, but the tools do.
I like that. I like that phrasing, Glenn. Let me ask you this. If somebody comes to you, they have not checked their account fees in a year, what kind of difference could getting a portfolio x-ray from somebody like yourself make over a 20 or 30-year retirement for someone?
Well, there's a lot of things that can chip away at the success of your portfolio, whether they're fees, taxes, interest rates. There's lots of things that are embedded into the costs of a portfolio. In fact, the 12B1 fees, for example, the SEC doesn't even require that they be disclosed on your quarterly statements. So there's fees that people are paying that they're not even aware of. Now, all of those fees are disclosed in the prospectuses, which is like the junk mail that you get that just finds the nearest trash can. So people are informed technically, but they don't see it, because when people get their statements, they're just looking at the bottom line.
Right.
And when they've had a 401k statement while they're working, they see it growing and growing and growing, and things are doing well. And as long as things are on the grow, people don't pay attention so much to how much they're paying. But that said, it does become a priority when the economy isn't giving us double-digit returns year after year. We have to start taking a closer look at what we're actually paying. And this is why I would invite you to give us a call so we can sit down and actually have a look and find out, how are your investments performing and what kind of drain do you have on them with any fees that you may be paying that you're unaware of. If you give us a call at 860-288-9977, I'd love to have the chance to sit down and have a conversation with you about it and at least expose some of the things that you have going on in your portfolio. Maybe it's going great, maybe it's not. But it's definitely wise to take a look at it and figure it out. So give us a call again at 860-288-9977 and come on in for a conversation and see what happens from there.
And I just want to emphasize, this is a complimentary introductory conversation. You can sit down with Glenn right here in his office in Uncasville, and you can get those big questions answered. He's local. He's ready to help you take the next step. All you've got to do is call us. That number for you again, 860-288-9977. One more time, 860-288-9977. Or find us online at jabezfinancial.com, and you can get connected with us that way. All right, Glenn, as of last month, the Wall Street Journal says that U.S. investors held a record $7.7 trillion in money market funds thanks to higher interest rates. But investment manager Michael Kantrowitz tells Fox Business that many might have to make a decision about the money soon. Take a listen.
Cash is, of course, an alternative now with where interest rates are. They're well off of zero. So it is appropriate that for many different reasons, people hold liquid cash investments, not only for near-term use, but also to gain some income. And that yield is well above many stocks that pay dividends in the S&P 500 or below. But if interest rates do continue to come down, then that money will probably be put somewhere else.
All right, Glenn, talk to us about this. If that happens, are there better places for that cash?
There certainly are. And when we think about right now, Warren Buffett has about $347 billion in cash. That's a tremendous amount of money. It's actually hard to
Yes.
picture. And he has a higher cash position now more than ever. Now, in 1999, he started stockpiling cash. In 2007, he started stockpiling cash. And today, he's been doing it more than ever. When interviewed and asked, he says, why so much cash? He says, it's just, there's nothing good to buy. Now, that's not to say that there's not good companies, but they're just overpriced. So it doesn't make sense to go into the market with such an overpay for things. So although he's gotten a high cash position, that doesn't mean that's the only place to go. And depending upon your need for liquidity, then we may want to take a different approach. For right now, it's a good idea to figure out where can I get the most guaranteed growth? Where interest rates are still decent. There's still opportunities out there where companies are paying a lot to borrow your money. So let's look for where can we get the most guaranteed growth? And then after the market corrects, then we can systematically move back into it when the market's on the climb. But in the meantime, we don't have to just sit in cash doing nothing. We can use alternative investments, whether it be structured notes, bond ladders. There's things that people can do where they can still get a decent income and decent growth on their accounts while not assuming the kind of market risk that would be out there if we just stayed invested in a cookie cutter portfolio.
When a client comes into your office and they're sitting on some cash, Glenn, but they are kind of scared, they like that money right there where they can see it, where they can get to it. How do those conversations usually go? How do you get them to loosen up and, take some risk? How do those conversations usually go when someone's sitting on a pile of cash like that?
Well, sometimes when people assume risk, they think there's a risk of loss of principal. But there's a different type of risk, and that's commitment risk. So they're not necessarily risking their money, but are they risking the commitment involved in going into any kind of investment? So we want to have an in-depth conversation about how much cash do you really need to have on hand? How much makes you feel comfortable? I know some people say, well, I don't need to have any cash on hand. I make plenty of money. I don't need anything on hand liquid. Well, and then there's some people that say, I've got to have at least $500,000 in the bank at my disposal. And I can ask, well, when was the last time you spent $50,000 randomly in any 1 week? And the answer is never, which is part of the reason why they have that much in the first place. But we want to talk about when is the money going to be used? When you can articulate how much money you really need to have on hand and establish why, then people can feel more comfortable realizing, okay, well, you know what? I don't need this money in the next 6 months, 12 months, 5 years. Now we can give it a different assignment so it can perform better for us.
In retirement, you want that hard-earned money to be working for you, and that's where incorporating a professional can really make all the difference for you. Glenn, he is eager to help you strike that right balance. So if you're wondering whether your cash is in the right place or if you even know where all your cash is, this is a great time to talk. 860-288-9977 is how you reach us. And you can sit down with Glenn. You can get a second set of eyes on your portfolio. Our first 5 callers can get on Glenn's calendar for that introductory conversation, completely complimentary. So that number again, 860-288-9977. Take advantage of this opportunity while we've got those spots available. Again, our number, 860-288-9977, or you can always find us online. We are at jabezfinancial.com, and that's Jabez, J-A-B-E-Z. All right, Glenn, you have always told us that Roth conversions are a smart way to control future taxes. That's where you convert pre-tax IRA funds to after-tax Roth accounts, and you take advantage of that tax-free growth. And thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, those low tax rates we've enjoyed since 2017 will now continue. But an article I read this week at Kiplinger said that this strategy is no longer a slam dunk. So, Glenn, can you explain what they're talking about here? Is this another reason why Roth conversions are not a DIY project?
Well, one of the first things we want to look at is categorizing the assets between pre-tax, after-tax, Roth, hard assets, liquid assets. And once we categorize what we have, then we can start looking at what is our potential future tax burden, and then begin to put together a strategy about how to go about eliminating or reducing the amount of taxes that we're inevitably going to have to pay. So it starts depending upon the cash flow needs with respect to the total amount of assets. For example, if somebody's got $5 million and they only need to take $10,000 a year out of income out of it, and all of that $5 million is pre-tax, they're walking into a massive tax bill when they have to start taking required minimum distributions. And so that's the target date that we want to look at. We want to figure out how much income are they going to need to take by the time they reach the age that they have to start taking required minimum distributions. And we want to do it in such a way that the amount of income that they're pulling out of their 401k or their IRA, we want to make sure that the amount of income that they're taking out is more than their required minimum distribution. Because if people are taking out their required minimum distribution when they don't need the income, now they're accepting a tax burden because they're forced and not out of choice. And so between retirement and when RMDs start, those are the real specific years we want to look at closely to determine how much should we convert from pre-tax to Roth money. And it's done year by year, because when we do a Roth conversion, that adds to your adjusted gross income. And not only does that give you a tax bill, IRMA could kick in, and that could make the costs of the Medicare premiums go up. So that there's a number of things to consider between not just the taxes that you'll have to pay between now and when you're done doing Roth conversions, but how much is that going to affect other things? Like I said, like with IRMA, potentially. The other thing is a motivating factor to do some of these Roth conversions is who's going to receive the money when you go. For example, if you've got a bunch of pre-tax money and you're married, when you pass away, that pre-tax account goes to your spouse untouched. It's fine. And they can continue to use it as they so need or as they so choose for their own benefit. But when those assets get transferred to the next generation, that's when they can get hit with a huge tax bill, because the kids can't take the money out slowly. They have to take out every dollar of that pre-tax money within a 10-year time frame. So if there's $1 million in there, they're adding at least $100,000 a year to their taxable income, and a lot of it gets paid in taxes then. However, if it's Roth money, yes, they still have to liquidate the Roth over 10 years, but at least there's no tax burden in the process. So there's a fine line between calculating how much should we choose to pay in taxes now, or how much do we want to be forced to pay in taxes later. See, every situation is different. And this is why when we get to have a conversation about this, we can talk about, well, when do you need the money? Who's going to be spending it? And how much cash flow do you need to be taking out of your retirement account with respect to the total value of the retirement accounts? There's so much involved in this to dig through it. We have to be able to open up a dialogue and have a conversation that extends beyond just looking at the numbers. So when you give us a call at 860-288-9977, you can come in for a conversation. We can start talking about what are the goals that you have for this money? How do you want it to be really used? Because you earned it, or you have authority over it. You're in control of it. So it's a matter of having respect for it and giving it the right assignment. So I welcome you to give us a call, come in for a conversation, and let's start finding out what some of those opportunities are. So again, give us a call at 860-288-9977.
And remember, Glenn is right here in Uncasville. His office is just down the street from Mohegan Sun, and he is working with folks just like you every single day. So if you're ready to take that next step, I encourage you to give us a call, 860-288-9977. We're standing by right now to find you the next convenient time on Glenn's calendar. That's 860-288-9977. Or you can visit us online anytime at jabezfinancial.com, and you can get connected with us that way. All right, Glenn, I know you're more of a soccer guy, but I want to talk about the NFL for a moment. We're several weeks into the season now, and several head coaches are in the hot seat and in danger of losing their jobs already. Now, it usually comes down to these few reasons, among a few others. One, a poor start to the season after high expectations. 2, a consistent losing record, and 3, it's been too long since a playoff appearance. So I was reading through this list, Glenn, and when you think about it, when it comes to planning your retirement, your financial advisor is really like your coach. So I wanted to ask you, what are some signs that maybe it's time for you to put your financial advisor in the hot seat?
Well, having realistic expectations is critical. And when the market's on the climb, like it has been since 2009, we don't necessarily pay too much of attention to the advice that we're getting from our financial advisor, because it's just a matter of rebalancing, doing the right asset allocation, and things are on the grow, and they're okay. No harm, no foul, things are improving. But at some point, we get this feeling in our guts that something isn't right. That's kind of like the check engine light. All right, we know the market's overpriced. We know we know we're in a bubble. We know there has to be some sort of correction at some point. So what do? Well, we look back, I've got a financial advisor. They've been managing the money. It's been going well. He'll give me a call, but they don't. And that's the thing. It's hard to, it's not comfortable to pick up the phone, call somebody and say, all this stuff that we've been doing, it's time to change course. Well, why? There's no reason for it. Well, there's a time to change course. And oftentimes, it's not the advisor that picks up the phone and initiates that conversation. A lot of times, it's the client that calls their advisor and says, I'm starting to get a little concerned about what could happen to my account. And they say, okay, well then come on in. Well, let's revisit it. And the advisor will hear them out and say, well, you know what? Okay, well, let's do this. We can restructure this a little bit and reduce your risk. And people end up leaving feeling, that's a lot better. Good. Well, my question is this. If you initiated the conversation, who's doing the advising? A lot of times it's the client that's advising the advisor. Because if the advisor's got a good thing going and he's got the money invested in the portfolio and they've got their consistent fees coming out of there, why rock the boat? So that's why oftentimes financial advisors will wait until after things start to collapse. Then they'll initiate a call to their client saying, well, you know what? It's time for us to revisit this. And they'll make that hard phone call before another advisor comes in and takes their client away. So when we work with a financial advisor, we want them to be more concerned about our success than our friendship. We want to be more concerned with truth and common sense rather than just what feels good. And having those conversations before something bad happens, that's what's important. And who's initiating that dialogue? It's funny. I sit down with some clients that they'll walk in for the first time, and I'll talk to them about, okay, this portfolio that you've had has worked out great. I mean, you were aggressively invested during the best bull run ever. And it's kind of like you took your money, you went to the casino, you gambled, and you won. Walk away from the table. And that's something that their financial advisors aren't telling them because they're making money as long as they're still playing the game. But there's a time to dial back that risk exposure. And when having the conversations with a financial advisor, it's not so much just putting them in the hot seat, because not only does people don't like to be in the hot seat, people really don't like putting other people in the hot seat. And I say that because there's been so many times that my clients have asked me, well, I know I need to make this change, but I'm afraid to call my financial advisor and tell him. I'm like, they're concerned about picking up the phone. It's like they're intimidated by having a conversation with their own financial advisor.
Red flag.
Right. And they say, yeah, and I've worked with him for so long. And I'm thinking, if you've worked with him for 10, 20 years and you're still hesitant to pick up the phone and ask him a question, there's a red flag in the relationship. See, I love it when my clients call, and I don't care what they're calling about, because I'm interested in them, not just their money. So if there is something that's not feeling settled, of course I welcome the call. But that doesn't mean I'm going to change my opinion just because of how someone feels. Well, let's have another conversation about it and use common sense and remove the emotional component of the investment decisions. But like I said, that feeling that you have in your guts that I've got to do something, something's got to give here. If you're hesitant about calling your existing financial advisor, I welcome you to give us a call at 860-288-9977, or visit us online at jabezfinancial.com. And keep in mind that when you do call, you're really taking care of yourself. It's a responsible thing to do to get a second opinion and have a conversation. And my objective is to provide you with the best information possible so that you can make better decisions for yourself. And if that means going back and advising your advisor and perpetuating that, so be it. I'm not offended. Like I said, by coming in and having a conversation, that's what I ask. That's what I look forward to. And I'm happy to help in any way I can.
I think with most things in life, it never hurts to get a second opinion. So why not get a second set of eyes on your retirement plan? We just want to remind you that Glenn will do this completely complimentary for you. He's eager to see how he can help, but you've just got to make the first move. 860-288-9977 is how you do it. We're standing by right now to get you on his calendar. So again, that number 860-288-9977 or visit jabezfinancial.com. and you can get started with us online. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Manument Podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcasts so that you never miss an episode, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Glenn Johnson, Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.